Listen to me closely. Just because you're smiling on the outside doesn't mean heaven is fooled. God knows your pain, the tears you wiped away before anyone saw them, the prayers you whispered when your voice was too weak to cry out loud, the nights when sleep escaped you and hope felt like a stranger. You may feel overlooked, misunderstood, delayed. But hear this truth with everything inside you. God has never taken his eyes off you. Before the pain reached your heart, it passed through his hands. Before the door closed, he already prepared another way. Before you felt abandoned, he was arranging assistance you couldn't yet see. Sometimes God works silently, not because he is absent, but because he is precise. He doesn't rush miracles, he builds them. What feels like waiting is actually preparation. What feels like rejection is often redirection. What feels like breaking is the moment he's reshaping you for greater strength. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. You're not forgotten. You're being fortified. The same God who sees your pain is the God who turns pain into purpose. And even now, while you're wondering when, how, and why, he's already working behind the scenes in ways you'll soon understand. Hold on. Stay faithful. Because what God is about to reveal will explain everything you've been through. There are moments in life when you realize that the hardest battles are not the ones people applaud you for, but the ones no one ever sees. The smiles you force, the strength you borrow just to get through the day, the quiet discipline it takes to keep going when quitting would feel easier. People may walk past you and never notice the weight you're carrying, but hear this with clarity and conviction. God sees what others never notice. Long before anyone clapped for your progress or criticized your pace, heaven was paying attention. God sees the tears that never fell because you learned how to swallow pain and still function. He saw you wake up when your heart was heavy and your mind was tired, yet you still showed up for responsibilities that drained you. He noticed when you kept your integrity, even though compromise could have given you a faster reward. While others measured you by results, God measured you by endurance. While people looked at appearances, God examined your heart. There is a false belief that if no one acknowledges your struggle, it must not matter. But God has never operated on the approval system of people. He is not impressed by noise. He responds to faithfulness. The silent sacrifices you made when no one was watching were never wasted. The prayers you prayed that felt unanswered were never unheard. The obedience you walked in when it cost you comfort was never ignored. You see, people often celebrate outcomes, but God honors process. People clap at the finish line, but God walks with you through every exhausting mile. When others overlooked you, God was overseeing you. When they misunderstood your delay, God was protecting your destiny. What felt like invisibility was actually insulation. God shielding you from pressures you weren't meant to carry yet. There are seasons when God allows you to be hidden, not because you lack value, but because you carry too much value to be exposed too early. Some blessings need privacy before they need publicity. Some callings need pruning before promotion. God sees the potential inside you that others can't recognize yet, and he refuses to rush what he carefully designed. He saw you choose peace over proving your point. He saw you forgive when you had every reason to stay bitter. He saw you show kindness when your heart was bruised. These moments may not trend, they may not go viral, but they echo loudly in heaven. God keeps record of every seed you planted in faith, even when the soil looked empty. And when you feel like asking, does any of this matter? God answers with purpose. Yes, it matters. It matters because character always precedes calling. It matters because humility sustains what talent can only start. It matters because what you do in secret shapes what you can handle in public. You weren't overlooked. You were being observed. You weren't passed by. You were being prepared. Some people couldn't celebrate you because they couldn't see what God was building in you. Others dismissed you because your current chapter didn't match your future promise. But God never judged you by where you were. He judged you by who you were becoming. The strength you developed in hidden places will support you when pressure increases. The patience you learned in waiting seasons will keep you steady when doors finally open. The wisdom you gain from pain will guide others when your voice is finally amplified. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was accidental. Even now, when you feel unnoticed, God is still working with precision. He's aligning people you haven't met yet. He's arranging opportunities you can't see yet. He's closing doors that would have distracted you from your purpose. And when the moment comes, when he decides to reveal what he has been forming, you will understand why the silence was necessary. One day, people will see the strength and think it came overnight. They won't know the nights you cried in prayer. They'll admire your confidence without realizing was forged in insecurity you had to conquer. They'll applaud the fruit without knowing the seasons of planting that required faith with no guarantee. But God knows, and that is enough. So keep walking, keep trusting, keep being faithful even when applause is absent. Heaven is watching, and God never forgets what he sees. There is a moment in every faith journey when waiting feels heavier than the problem itself. You're not just asking God to fix something. You're asking him to move, to speak, to show a sign that you're not standing still alone. And when nothing seems to change, the mind starts whispering dangerous conclusions. Maybe God said no. Maybe I missed my chance. Maybe this delay means it's never going to happen. But hear this truth with authority and clarity. Delay is not denial. It is divine timing at work. God does not operate on your calendar. He operates on purpose. What you call late, God calls a line. What you call slow, God calls strategic. There are things you are praying for that are real, but you are not yet ready to carry them without losing yourself. So God waits not to frustrate you, but to fortify you. He understands that a blessing given too early can become a burden, and a door opened prematurely can expose you to battles you are not prepared to fight. You see, waiting is not wasted time in the kingdom of God. Waiting is where strength is developed, wisdom is sharpened, and dependence on God deepens. In the waiting, your motives are refined. In the delay, your character is tested. God uses time as a tool, not a punishment. He allows seasons to stretch because stretching creates capacity. If he gave you everything now, you might enjoy it briefly, but you wouldn't sustain it long. There are relationships God delayed to protect your heart. There are opportunities God postponed to save your future. There are prayers God slowed down because he saw consequences you couldn't yet discern. What felt like silence was actually supervision. God was watching how you handled disappointment, how you treated people who didn't help you, how you responded when doors stayed shut. Sometimes God delays because he's working on multiple layers at once. While you're asking him to change the situation, he's changing you. While you're focused on the outcome, he's focused on your foundation. While you're watching the clock, he's aligning circumstances, people, timing, and purpose with precision you cannot imagine. Think about this. If God rushed every answer, you would never learn patience. If he removed every struggle immediately, you would never build resilience. If he explained every delay, you would never develop trust. Faith grows strongest when understanding is weakest. That's why God often waits until you've exhausted your own solutions, so you learn to lean fully on him. Delay also teaches discernment. It helps you recognize the difference between what you want and what you truly need. Some things you begged for last season would have harmed you this season. Some doors you cried over were actually exits God mercifully closed. Time revealed what emotions could not. There is also a warfare element in waiting. Not everything delayed is dead. Some things are simply contested. God may be holding you back because moving you forward too soon would expose you to attacks you aren't yet equipped to handle. So he strengthens you quietly, arms you spiritually, and matures you internally before releasing you externally. You're not behind schedule. You're on God's schedule. Heaven is not confused by your timeline. God has not lost track of your prayers, your promises, or your progress. He remembers every word he spoke over your life, and not one of them will fall to the ground unfulfilled. And when the moment finally comes, when the door opens, when the answer arrives, when the breakthrough manifests, you'll realize the delay didn't weaken you. It prepared you. You'll walk in with humility instead of pride, wisdom instead of impulse, gratitude instead of entitlement. You'll handle success without losing your soul. So stop interpreting waiting as rejection. Stop assuming silence means absence. God is not slow. He is intentional. He is building something that will last longer than your impatience. He is shaping a future that won't collapse under pressure. Hold your faith steady. Keep doing what's right even when results are slow. Trust that divine timing never arrives late. It arrives complete. There is a truth many people don't want to hear, but it changes everything once you understand it. Pain is not proof that God has abandoned you. It is often evidence that God is developing you. Every season that hurt you also shaped you. Every wound that made you cry also taught you something strength could never teach on its own. What you survived was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to deposit power inside you. Pain has a way of stripping away illusions. It removes what you depended on that could not sustain you. It reveals who is real, what matters, and where your true source must be. When life was comfortable, you didn't pray the same way. When everything was predictable, you didn't listen as closely. Pain sharpened your hearing. Pain deepened your faith. Pain forced you to seek God, not just for blessings, but for understanding. Some of the strongest people you admired didn't become powerful because life was kind to them. They became powerful because they endured what should have crushed them and refused to let it define them. Pain introduces you to a version of yourself you didn't know existed. It reveals courage you never had to use before. It awakens compassion you could never have learned in comfort. It builds empathy that turns survivors into leaders and wounded hearts into healers. God does not waste pain. He recycles it. He takes what hurt you and uses it as training. He allows pressure not to punish you, but to prepare you. Just like resistance builds muscle, adversity builds spiritual strength. Without struggle, there is no stamina. Without testing, there is no testimony. You may not realize it yet, but the very thing that made you feel weak is the same thing that will make your voice carry authority. The experience that embarrassed you will one day empower someone else. The tears you cried in secret will become wisdom spoken in public. Pain gives credibility to your faith. It turns words into weight. There are lessons God can only teach you through hardship. You learned how to stand alone when support disappeared. You learned how to trust God when answers didn't come quickly. You learned how to keep moving even when motivation was gone. That discipline, that endurance, that resilience, that is power. Power is not loud. It doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes power looks like getting up when you didn't feel like it. Sometimes power looks like forgiving when bitterness would have been easier. Sometimes power looks like continuing to believe when disappointment tried to rewrite your expectations. Pain trained you to keep your footing when the ground shifted beneath you. You didn't just survive, you were strengthened. You didn't just endure, you were equipped. God was building spiritual muscle in places comfort could never reach. While you were asking Him to remove the pain, He was using it to mature you. While you were focused on relief, He was focused on results. And here is the part that changes perspective. Pain expands capacity. It enlarges your ability to handle responsibility, influence, and blessing. What you can manage now is greater than what you could handle before. You pray differently now. You love differently now. You lead differently now. That didn't come from ease. It came from endurance. Some people are powerful in theory. Others are powerful through experience. You've lived what others only talk about. You've walked through storms and learned how to stand in the rain. That gives you authority no title can give. When you speak hope, it's believable. When you talk about faith, it's proven. When you encourage others, it's authentic. Pain also teaches discernment. You see clearer now. You recognize warning signs you once ignored. You value peace more than applause. You choose purpose over popularity. That wisdom is power. That clarity is strength. God is not done with what your pain produced. What you went through is becoming a bridge for others. Your scars are becoming signs that survival is possible. Your journey is becoming proof that brokenness does not cancel destiny. One day, you will look back and realize the pain didn't take from you. It gave to you. It gave you depth. It gave you insight. It gave you a voice that carries weight because it was forged in fire. And when God uses you, He will use the parts of your story you once tried to hide. What hurt you did not win. It trained you. It refined you. It positioned you. And now the power inside you is greater than the pain that tried to stop you. There are seasons when God seems quiet, and if you're honest, that silence can feel unsettling. You pray, you believe, you wait, and nothing appears to move. No announcement. No visible breakthrough, no clear sign that heaven is responding. But silence does not mean inactivity. Some of God's greatest work happens in private, long before it ever shows up in public. God works quietly before He moves publicly, and understanding this truth will keep your faith steady when your eyes can't see progress. We live in a world that celebrates noise. We want instant results, visible signs, public confirmation. But God is not impressed by urgency. He is committed to accuracy. He does not rush what requires precision. When God is silent, He is often strategic. When He seems hidden, He is usually handling details you couldn't manage if He explained them to you. There are things God must settle behind the scenes before He can release you to the front. He is aligning people who don't even know your name yet. He is removing obstacles you never saw coming. He is closing doors that look good, but would have cost you your peace, your purpose, or your future. You call it quiet. God calls it construction. Think about how foundations are built. They are laid underground, out of sight, before anything impressive rises above the surface. No one applauds a foundation. No one takes pictures of what's hidden. But if the foundation is weak, the entire structure will collapse. God cares too much about your future to skip the hidden work. In these silent seasons, God is shaping your character. He is teaching you how to trust without applause. He is training you to walk by faith instead of feelings. He is strengthening your spiritual muscles so you don't crumble under pressure when attention finally comes. Public elevation without private preparation always leads to public failure. God refuses to promote what He hasn't prepared. You may feel overlooked right now, but you're not being ignored. You're being insulated. God is protecting you from exposure before maturity. There are battles you would face too soon if He pushed you forward prematurely. So He hides you not to harm you, but to heal you, not to delay you, but to develop you. Quiet seasons also reveal where your faith truly lies. When there is no applause, no affirmation, no visible reward, will you still obey? Will you still worship? Will you still trust God's timing even when your prayers feel unanswered? These moments are not tests to fail you, they are trainings to fortify you. God is also dealing with internal things during these times. He is uprooting pride you didn't know was there. He is healing wounds you tried to ignore. He is breaking dependencies that would limit your growth. While you're asking him to change your circumstances, he's changing your capacity. There are conversations God is having about you that you are not invited into yet. Decisions are being made in your favor before you ever hear the announcement. Doors are being prepared before you ever see the handle. The silence is not empty, it's full of divine activity. And here's the part that requires trust. God does not warn you before he elevates you publicly. One day, without explanation, the same people who overlooked you will suddenly recognize you. The same doors that stayed shut will open effortlessly. The same silence that frustrated you will make sense in a single moment. That's how God moves, suddenly, decisively, and unmistakably. When God finally speaks publicly through your life, it will not need promotion. What he does will speak for itself. The impact will be undeniable. The timing will be perfect, and you'll realize that every quiet day was building toward that moment. So don't despise the hidden season. Don't rush the silence. Don't mistake stillness for stagnation. God is too intentional to waste time. He is working quietly, but he is working thoroughly. One day, the preparation will give way to manifestation. The private shaping will lead to public strength. And when people ask how it happened, you'll know the truth. It started when God was silent and you chose to trust him anyway. Stay faithful in the quiet. God is closer than you think, and when he moves, it will be worth every silent step. There comes a point in every long season of waiting when hope feels fragile and endurance feels expensive. You've held on longer than you thought you could. You've prayed prayers that felt like they disappeared into the air. You've watched others move forward while you stayed in the same place, wondering if your turn would ever come. And in those moments, discouragement tries to convince you that the waiting is meaningless. But hear this with certainty and strength. What's coming will be worth the waiting. God never asks you to wait without intention. Waiting is not God's way of postponing joy. It's his way of protecting it. If he gave you everything the moment you asked, you might enjoy it briefly, but it wouldn't last. God is invested in outcomes that endure, not moments that fade. He wants to bless you in a way that sustains your peace, not steals it. The waiting has been shaping your discernment. You see clearer now than you did before. You don't chase every opportunity. You don't trust every voice. You've learned that not everything good is God, and not everything delayed is denied. That wisdom did not come overnight. It was earned through patience, disappointment, and reflection. And that wisdom will guard what God gives you next. You've also developed gratitude in the waiting. You've learned how to appreciate small victories, quiet moments, and unseen progress. When the blessing finally arrives, you won't take it lightly. You won't waste it. You won't treat it casually. You'll steward it with care because you remember what it cost you to get there. Waiting builds endurance. You can handle pressure now without panic. You can face uncertainty without falling apart. You can move forward without needing constant reassurance. That stability is a gift. God was strengthening your inner life so that when your outer life changes, you won't lose yourself. There were doors God didn't open because you would have walked into something unprepared. There were opportunities he held back because they would have demanded more than you could give at the time. Looking back, you can see moments where disappointment was actually protection. What you thought you needed then would have limited what God wanted to do now. What's coming is not fragile. It won't collapse under stress. It won't be taken easily. It won't require you to compromise who you are. God has been building something that fits you, your values, your capacity, your calling. That takes time. You're not waiting alone. God has been walking with you through every uncertain step. He has seen every tear, every moment of doubt, every quiet act of faith. None of it has gone unnoticed. Heaven keeps perfect record, and God is faithful to fulfill what he promised. And when the waiting ends, it won't feel rushed or confusing. It will feel right. Peace will accompany it. Clarity will confirm it. Strength will sustain it. You'll recognize it not because it arrives dramatically, but because it arrives completely. What's coming will restore what you thought was lost. It will make sense of what once felt pointless. It will bring closure to seasons that hurt and open doors to seasons that heal. God doesn't just answer prayers, he redeems the journey that led to them. So don't let weariness talk you out of endurance. Don't let frustration rewrite your faith. The waiting is almost over. Even if you can't see the finish line yet, God is faithful to finish what he started. One day, you'll look back and realize that if God had moved sooner, you wouldn't be who you are now. And you'll thank him, not just for the blessing, but for the process that made you ready to receive it. Hold on a little longer. Stay faithful a little deeper. What's coming will be worth every moment you had to wait. And now, as you stand at the end of this word, I want you to carry one truth with you. God has never stopped working on your behalf. He saw what others ignored. He delayed not to deny, but to protect. He allowed pain not to break you, but to build power within you. He worked quietly when you thought nothing was happening. And he made you wait because what's coming is too important to rush. Every tear had a purpose. Every silent night carried preparation. Every closed door saved you from something you didn't need. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not weak. You are being positioned. What God is about to do will explain why he had you walk through what you didn't understand. When it arrives, it won't just bless you. It will restore you, steady you, and confirm you. You'll walk into it stronger, wiser, and ready. So lift your head, strengthen your faith, trust the timing, because the same God who saw your pain is the God who is about to reveal your purpose. And when he finishes, it will be clear the wait was worth it.